is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Unlockables podcast, the story of video games, the people who play them, and the memories made along the way. My name is Eric. I am your host, as always, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in wherever, whenever in time and space you may be located. It means the world to me that you're here to check out what is going on in the world of video games. Today's episode, I am incredibly excited because we're back with collaborations, with interviews, baby. That was one of my goals for the show this year. I'd really missed collaborating with people as my wife was pregnant and my kid was coming into the world. I really took the solo podcast thing really seriously and did so much stuff by myself. But now that he's here and my life is kind of getting back to a new normal, I'm excited to be able to be collaborating with a lot of the incredible community members in the podcasting indie community that we're a part of. Speaking of incredible members, I have an incredible guest today. You know him as the one true gaming prophet. He's the host of the Gaming Memories podcast. And if you're on video game TikTok, odds are you have seen one of his incredible emulation transformation videos. And we're going to question him all about that today on this episode. Is my good friend Kade from the Gaming Memories podcast. Kade, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Dude, I'm doing good. You came up with the phrase emulation transformation. I might steal that because I've been trying to think of, I've been calling those videos how I play, and I've been wanting to do a longer form YouTube version of that where I can go into more detail, all the stuff. But I'm like, how I play is not like, you got to think about the clickbait titles and the competitiveness of YouTube. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really into like putting a sexy girl's cleavage in as my thumbnail. So I'm already going to lose that. But so my title's got to be good. I needed to come up with a saying like DIY rematch. Like, what am I going to call this? What am I going to call this? Emulation transformation.
That's
it
pretty
rhymes. Good. It's fantastic.
I'm a sucker. It's not as good as alliteration because I'm a sucker for alliteration, but rhyming the TION on the end is pretty damn good. I'm happy to have put my $70,000 marketing degree to use for once. That alone will have paid off. But Kade, thank you so much for joining me tonight, sir. We're going to talk about everything that you do. I have so many questions to ask you about all the stuff that you do with Gaming Memories and all the tinkering that you do, giving us the glorious sauce for some of those incredible videos that you produce. But first, I kind of like to break the ice, and I just kind of like to ask the people that come on the show, what have you been up to lately? What are you playing lately?
The good thing about making gaming content as a lifelong gamer, sometimes people will run into this phenomena where gaming, you love it, but it doesn't quite hit the same. I've seen people make jokes about it and memes and different YouTube skits and social media skips of like why games don't hit the same and nostalgia bait and all that. And I don't have an answer to any of that. But what I have stumbled into is when you play games specifically with creating content in mind, it kind of transforms the experience. And it's actually made gaming really enjoyable for me in a different way that I didn't expect. So the reason that's applicable to the question is everything I game currently is because I'm going to use it for some type of content. At the very least, I might stream something I've been streaming on TikTok Live just to get my feet wet with the streaming thing. And I will either play a game that fits with retro or indie, because that's generally what I cover, or I will stream it and also try to get clips for content. And the biggest thing that I've been having the most fun with lately is there is a Patreon creator that goes by Otis INF, and on Twitter or X, I guess it's hard to call it X, Habit. His Franz Boma, and he creates camera hacks for a ton of different games. And I've been doing this series where I will play through a game and then I will detach the camera at certain points and try to get cinematic shots of the environment. And I'll get all the best shots, and I want to showcase the level design and the environment design, because it doesn't really, I try to focus on things that don't get as much love, but I still think are important into gaming. And there's another creator on YouTube that goes by, I forget, I think it's called Flirta, that does the same thing. All right, I'm essentially copying him, and he's awesome, but he's the only channel I know that does it. And I think it's a good idea for content. We need more of it. And so I've been playing through games that I have the camera unlocker for, that this creator has put on. So that has been Alan Wake 2, Hellblade, Sensua's Saga, Ghost of Tsushima PC release, which is probably one of the most gorgeous games. And the shots I'm getting for that game are absolutely batshit crazy. And then what was I playing? I've been playing Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition. It's an older game
Ah,
that he put out a camera hack, and it's a game that it's my favorite game in the franchise. I love Darksiders 2. I don't think it gets enough cred. And so I've been streaming that, and a lot of people have been coming into the TikTok and being like, this game is goated. So there's a community out there that likes the game. It didn't do it well. It did okay at launch. They made three of them. It made some money, but it got a lot of like not shit, but sort of what would be the term? People didn't poo-poo it, but they were like, it's okay.
it's like a lukewarm
Because
reception, kind of.
lukewarm, because it's like
Yeah.
it's trying to be Zelda, but it's not as good as Zelda. And the combat's trying to be Devil May Cry, but it's not as good as Devil May Cry or whatever. But recently I've realized it has a lot in common with Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, that was on the
Yes.
PS1 and then later on the Dreamcast. And the combat it's awesome. So I've been mainly playing Darksiders 2, these other games, and getting shots for cinematic shots. Alan Wake 2 was awesome. The environmental design and the sound design in that game is it's a shame that it was an epic exclusive, no physical, because I think that game would have sold way more. It's awesome. Anyway, I'm rambling. Those are the games I've been playing. They're all awesome. If you're interested in any of them, you should play it.
I would definitely go check out that Alan Wake 2 video if anybody's listening, because I think I messaged you after that one and you were just like, hey, if you ever play it, like, let me know. I'll come on and talk about it. But I was going to ask, so that's the process by which you went through and captured all of the shots was getting that. Who's the creator again? And what was that Patreon so people could find it?
Yeah, so the Patreon is, I don't know why he has different names. It's confusing. On Patreon, it's OTIF, OTIF, uh, Insef or something. It's like a foreign name. I don't know. And then on X, it's Franz Boma, FRANS space BOUMA.
Awesome.
And I think I'm like the $3 a month tier. I think it's worth it because he's consistently releasing new camera hacks, and sometimes they're old games. Like Darksiders 2 came out. I'm like, I love that game, and now I have a reason to replay it. I thought the art style was awesome, so I grabbed it. I already had it on Steam, downloaded it. His packs all work basically the same. So once you learn how to use his tools once, it's essentially the same experience for every game. And he also packages in. I'm sorry, I'm like nerding off. I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but
Do go deep. That's why I
I
brought
have
you
no
on here.
relation to this guy. I've never talked to him. I just legitimately like pay for his product, and I think it's fucking awesome. Can we say fucking on this podcast?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is not for kids. It's fine.
Okay. His shit is fucking awesome. He also will, depending on the game and the engine and some of the under the hood stuff that I probably don't understand, some of his packs will have more functionality than others. Like for example, Elden Ring has a increased LOD draw distance built into his little program that you inject into the game. So when you're getting shots or videos, you can click that. And for those, most of you probably know what an LOD is, but it's a level of detail map. So like in an open world game, if an object's really far away, it will load lower res textures because it's farther away. But you can basically force the game to load the higher res textures depending on the game and the engine. He'll pack that in. Elden Ring also gives you the ability to change the time of day in the sun. So if you have an awesome shot, I can scroll through all the time of day and weather settings and like find the one that looks the dopest for this environment. Stuff like that, right? So
That's
there's a lot of like
amazing.
you don't realize until you start playing around with it. He has built-in FOV. You can control the camera in like 6 degrees based on the like a regular pad with left two sticks and two shoulder buttons. And then there's like a button for smooth camera motion. If you hold down square, the camera moves slower. If you hit it down triangle, it moves faster. So like once you get good at controlling the camera, it's the same for every game. He just makes an awesome product if you mess with that type of stuff. And for Alan Wake 2, because you could like live in those environments and control the lighting and then listen to the sound. Well, like it made the game more intense for me because I spent more time in the environment and like appreciating the environment that they crafted. And that's a very like it's a survival horror, psychological thriller. It's all about the environment and mood. So I got to just like soak in it. And it's probably one of my favorite videos this style that I've made to date. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I said, it's an incredible video, and that just that gets my brain racing, because a lot of the times when we're going through games and we're playing stuff, like we're the level design and the environments are kind of like used to like shepherd us up from the path that the game wants us to go on. So to like be able to slow down and like detach that camera and like go around and just look at a lot of the times that stuff's like not an afterthought to like the average person, like just playing through a game, or somebody's just like, oh, I'm just, platinum trophy hunting, or I'm just, trying to run the game and play as many games this year as I possibly can. So
Yeah.
I think that's really crazy to just be able to like detach the camera and like really appreciate it. And I just by watching that video, I'm just like, God damn, like somebody had to go through and like make all of this detail and spend
Mm-hmm.
hours and hours and hours like designing all these things. Like this isn't just like shit that was like pulled off of stock and like put in a corner. Like the level of detail is like just absolutely incredible. So like that alone like got me thinking of just all the games. I'm just like, I need to run through this 'cause I need to play it. And like, what are we actually missing by having that kind of mentality? Because we want to get on to the next thing. Like that's absolutely crazy.
I would recommend it. Like it's worth, even if you don't do it as much as I have, I think it's worth doing once, right? Pick a game, be like, just to try something new. I'm gonna play a game this way, and even if you don't use the shots or something, thinking through like I need to appreciate this environment and the aesthetics and the art that has gone into it. And speaking of what you said about individual assets, Alan Wake 2 in particular, you start noticing things like how often games reuse this, like, oh, there's some bottles over here, some junk in the corner. But once you start paying attention, you're like, oh, that's the same bottle and texture that this repeat over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. And when a game feels really gritty and realistic, a lot of it's subconscious. Most people are playing through the game, they're trying to get the platinum trophy. The environment is more like impacting their subconscious, and their prefrontal cortex and their brain is focusing on the gameplay loop and the puzzles, right? But everything else is still getting in there. And so people say, oh, Alan Wake, the graphics are awesome. It feels so real and alive. Or one of the things that you can actually pinpoint down as why that is if you start running the camera and looking at all the debris, like a room has like a garage with buckets and tools, right? It's lived in. And you start looking around, they're not using repeat assets, and they're placed around in natural ways, not just like lined up straight. And it's like the amount of time someone went through to hand pick and place every little thing and make that room feel like someone actually lives in it. And this hammer is slightly different than that hammer. And there's a soda pop here, and there's this soda pop where there's different. Or there's a crumble of them in the garbage can because that guy actually likes to drink this flavor of pop. Like little details that tie in to the character, like all that stuff adds up and makes a game feel more real, but consciously you don't understand all the work that goes into creating that until you kind of step back and start really paying attention. So it's made me appreciate games more. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's just easier to ignore those details and just yell at the developers on the internet because you're not happy about something, or
Yes.
send them death threats. That's way more easier than just taking the time to like appreciate something that's genuinely a labor intensive work of art that these people spend vast amounts of their free time on to give us this experience. So speaking of a lot of the games that you rattled off and you mentioned, I know this a little bit about you because we've done some King games and stuff before, but and since your show is called Gaming Memories, you talk to other people about their memories of games and such. I want to know about your memories of games. Where did it really start for you? Where did your gaming journey kind of begin? Do you remember like what was the first console, or what was the first game that kind of grabbed your attention, and what have you kind of been a fan of since then?
Well, how old are you?
I am 33. I was born in
Okay.
1991.
So I'm
So
39. We're a little bit different, but similar. I think I still
yes.
consider both of us sort of in this general range. And
Yeah.
what I genuinely not, I mean, part of me is being facetious because I always think our generation's the best. Every old man has said that since the dawn of time. Part of me is also being genuine though, because if you look at gaming history, it's there's always like the one thing that changed everything, especially in the beginning. So you can look at certain bands. There were grunge bands before Nirvana, but Nirvana made grunge a thing, right? They're a seminal moment in history. And grunge and rock went on to evolve to a bunch of more stuff.
Hmm.
So I feel if you were to look back, one of the best candidates for that moment in gaming history is the NES. The NES, it seemed like you had the 2600 that came before it, which was very popular. We had the video game crash. Like video games were around and they were popular. But for the NES made consoles a thing. And when I was a kid, everyone called all video games Nintendo, like you call all tissues a Kleenex, right?
Yes.
It became, at least in North America, I can't speak for the whole world, but it became this like it's just this landmark in video game history.
It
So, and that
was,
was the
especially
first.
especially when I was growing up too. Like my mom was always just like, "Oh, you can go play the Nintendo now," even though I
Yes,
had like a PlayStation and a
yes.
Nintendo, and yeah, it's just, "Oh, you can go play the Nintendo now."
It's just Nintendo, like really, that NES was the first console to get into the DNA of American culture. Not to say that the 2600 didn't do that a little bit and some of the previous stuff. There's awesome stuff, ColecoVision, and but they were, if you really just look back, it's like the Nintendo, the NES, that just it is what it is. It was the silverback gorilla, the first one that really, I think, showed that there's a lot of money to be made. Americans have an appetite for this. It's the first thing that I saw. I think it was Mario. I remember being so young, like confused that wait, the thing on the TV you're controlling, that's not how TVs work, right?
Hmm.
TVs, they just show you stuff and you look at them. You don't like control the things on the TV. And then we had Legend of Zelda, and I remember banging my head against the wall, having no idea what to do. But and I think I beat 2 dungeons like max ever, and I played that game for years and years and years, probably from
Right.
4 years old to like 10 years old, and I never beat it. Some early NES games, played a lot of Duck Hunt, Darkwing Duck. I would rent tons of games. It's just NES games, right? And I think there's something magical about the NES being your first console because it's like I consider the first console in the modern console generation. After, there's pre-video game crash and post-video game crash. In
Hmm.
my mind, that's how I separate it. And yeah, having that as I was a gamer from the jump, like obsessed. All I wanted to do was play video games. I broke a window when I was like 6 or 7, just being a ruffian, right? Ended up breaking someone's window with a rock. They somehow saw me, called my mom, like, your kid broke our goddamn window, pay for it. So she got super mad at me and she made me sell the Nintendo as a punishment. Like, oh,
Oh,
dude, and it
that's rough.
cleaned my act up real quick. Like,
Yep.
oh, there are consequences. Like, this is the purpose of life. This NES is the reason I wake up and breathe. And you just took that away from me. I was just
Yes.
loved video games from the very beginning. I would like beg to go to Blockbuster and I would read every goddamn character on every backplate of every game available and spend 45 minutes to an hour making what game am I going to rent? And I got to research. And that's 3 days. I don't get no take backs. My mom might not rent me another one for another month, 2, 3, who knows how long. Like, this has got to work, make the right decision. And even if you don't like the game and it's hard, you're stuck with it for those 3 days. And that's your new game. So you're going to sit down, you're going to figure it out, you're going to get good at it. So many NES games and so much confusion. Like, those games are so archaic and so hard, but I didn't care. I did not care.
Yeah, I would say because there was a less established like rules of game design back then. Everyone was just kind of figuring it out until Miyamoto came along and put out something that was a really, really good example of a video game product. So I'm in the same boat as you, except a generation later. So I got my start with the Super Nintendo. So still Nintendo, but the Super Nintendo kind of like defines the lens through which I see all video games. And Super Mario World was the first game I ever played. And I very much had that same experience. You know, I'm watching like Power Rangers on TV or Ninja Turtles or all that stuff that was popular in the early 90s. And yeah, my dad comes home with it one day and plugs it in and hands me the controller and is like, you can move the guy on the TV. And I was just like, no way, like no way. That's not possible. It's the coolest thing. And then I kind of grew up in a magical time because all that stuff was kind of happening at once. I got the Super Nintendo kind of like middle of its life cycle, and then the PlayStation 1 came out. My dad brought one of those home. I had an N64, so I kind of had like all that stuff, like the transition into the age of 3D. But I still really loved all the 16-bit games, and I didn't know any better. I just wanted to experience everything that I could, and it was pretty incredible. I want to ask you a little bit about the PS1 because I know from our conversations you're a big PS1 fan. Especially all those JRPGs on there. So the PS1, super important for you. Am I correct?
Yeah, my logo is a mix of the PS1 colors and the GameCube. I don't even like GameCube. I just thought it was catchy. But the PS1
Yes.
stuff had to. No, I should not take that back. I like the GameCube. It is not like a seminal nostalgic console. It's a great console. I played a bunch of games on it. It's awesome, but it's not the one for me. However, the PS1, a lot of my branding is always built around the PS1. I use the PS1 fonts. My logo colors are the same orange gradient with the same gray as the Sony boot up screen. The sounds I make are usually like running the PS1 startup sound through some like synthesis and like building something out of the Lego blocks of.
Hmm.
So it's like it's central to all my branding. The cover art on my Instagram videos, same. I take the logo of the game I'm featuring, and behind it is the PS1 gradient from the Sony startup screen. Everything's
Absolutely.
built around the PS1. I love that goddamn console. It hit me at I think the most magical time for all media, no matter who you are, whether it's music, video games, film. There's something about like 10, 11 to like 15 where
Yes.
like the early childhood stuff has a lot of nostalgia, but it's that early teenage and late teenage, whatever you're into then becomes like the bedrock of your taste. And that's usually the nostalgia we're seeking when you play retro games. And so I can play almost anything on the PS1 and I will like it just because it just puts me back into that magical time, even subconsciously. I have an affinity for the wonkiness and the craziness of the graphics and the early 3D archaic shit. Like the camera controls on every game are terrible. The frame rates are all terrible. But that's what to me, it's right. And I will do a lot to make those games more modern. And people get mad at me. I get a lot of anger in the comments, like, that's not the way it was meant to be played. You're ruining the art, yada, yada. It's like, number one, if they didn't have the limitations of the PS1 and they had a PS5 at that time, would they make Silent Hill this way? Would they make it? No, they wouldn't make this way. They're dealing with the limitations of the hardware. So
Right.
the way it was meant to be played. It's the way it was meant to be played for you. Okay. There's no wrong way to play it. But even that, like people have such a strong affinity for those retro games. Like if you change that experience at all, and you play it like you'd be surprised at how many people get fucking angry like every day. And it's just I get it though, right? That's their babies, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, it's so there's just that weird nostalgia magic that happens during that time frame. So for you, if you're like one generation later, it's like PS2, something around there was probably be the same thing for you, right?
Yeah, I have a real big soft spot in my heart for the PlayStation 2, definitely. I mean, my favorite game series of all time lives on there, and that was about the time that that like 11 to 15 was like really formative just in terms of video games. So that was like the Square Enix RPGs on the PS2, Final Fantasy 10, 12, obviously Kingdom Hearts. I'm the Kingdom Hearts guy. And then like going into high school, like that was the explosion of online FPS for consoles. So
Mm,
that was everybody in my school was playing Call of Duty. Everybody in my school was playing Halo 3. Everybody was playing probably Gears of War to a lesser extent. So that stuff I associate with like that stuff gives me the same type of feeling,
yeah.
even though everything kind of had that weird like grayish washed out brown filter over it around that time.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so anytime I see that, everyone's like, "Oh, it's so ugly." But for me, it's a little kind of heartwarming. It's like, "Oh, I like the brown tones. I like the gray tones." That reminds me of a better time when things weren't as stressful. We're definitely going to circle back around to like some of the comments and stuff because I have some questions on some of the videos and stuff. I wanted to tackle your podcast first, and you talked a little bit about it, gaming memories with all the. I love all your branding. It's so cool. So, your goal for gaming memories is you kind of invite people on and to just kind of talk about their gaming memories and just kind of chit chat with them. Is that correct?
Yeah. The idea came at a time when I like needed a new creative project that was just me, that I didn't have to collaborate with anybody else on. And I was just thinking, what do I never get sick about talking about? What can I talk about forever and forever? It's games. And I just like I'll do something simple. Like the guest thing makes sense. I'll just invite people on that I think are interesting or friends, start with friends, and I'll just talk to people about the games that shaped them, like the games they liked growing up. Get to know somebody, but with the same system. Talked about video games and then whatever they do. So if they're a content creator, whatever they do, music, streaming, cosplay, whatever. I just started doing that, and that's it. That's as far as I planned. I didn't do any social media content. I had really no master plan. I was like, just bring people on, talk to them about video games. I just sort of kept doing it, and I'm still sort of doing it. And I'm just trying to work my way up the ladder of getting more and more creative and interesting people. So because of music and my background in music and doing my own tunes and networking, I keep getting like bigger and bigger musicians on, and I find that a lot of music producers, like a lot, if they're making electronic music, they're all gamers, like 90% of
Oh,
them.
for sure.
So
For sure.
that's been like a great like sub niche for me to get into. Then I do a lot of podcasters like yourself. You should come on. Podcasters are awesome. They already know how to record. They know how to talk. They're already into video games. They have a fan base. It's scratch my back, scratch your back. It's like great. I'll do a pod. Anytime a podcaster that's a gaming want to come on, like it's so easy. Let's do it. Promote each other. Talk about video games. It's always a good time. And then I'll bring on but who have I had? I've had a concept artist on. I've had a stunt, like a Hollywood stunt man. He's currently in the new Captain America, which everyone's saying sucks, but the stunts are good. Shout out to my buddy Todd at Kuma Films. Yeah, just different people that through my networking or I just kind of meet. I had the what's his name? Something Liam, not Liam Nielsen. That's the dude in the movies. Where are you? I'll come get you. You have my daughter.
That would be crazy if you had him on.
Liam, I'm so sorry, Liam, if you hear this. He's the corporate sponsorship manager for the for the Knights group. They're like an esports
Oh yeah,
group.
I just listened to that episode like 2 days ago. Yep.
So just like basically the most interesting people that I can get a hold of that I find the most interesting, then yeah, come on. You may have nothing to do with video games. I've had like I said, a stunt man. I've had a dude that just survived cancer. Come on. We talked about like
Yeah.
cancer and video gaming. And it's just, but I just always talk about games, the games that shape them. So that's most of it. And then every once in a while, I'll have someone like Chris from Retro Hangover, and we'll talk about like Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 in one episode. That's pretty rare.
I listened to that one too. That was another great one. Yeah, I kind of took the same approach as you because I found that Unlockables is probably like my fourth or fifth podcast at this point, just trying to do something creative. Yeah. I started off with basketball, with NBA, with sports, and that fell off pretty quick. And like, this is like my fourth video game podcast. So many people, and no disrespect to anybody that does podcasts in these genres. Like, so many people are like doing we'll play a game and review it, or we'll talk about the current news or anything like that. And I was just kind of like, I really wanted a different angle, and I wanted to talk to people about their memories because I feel like those things are important. Like, I spent a large portion of my life, even though I played video games, like I was kind of put down because people were just like, oh, you're wasting time playing games, and like kind of delegitimize like the feelings of something that I really loved. So to be able to discover like a group of people that kind of shares that same thing is like, yeah, we love just talking about the memories of these things that we have played for basically our entire lives, I think is really important. I think it's really important too, especially for us, we're getting a little bit older, and I'll go on the TikTok and I'll scroll through like video game TikTok or Instagram reels and stuff, and I'll see a bunch of people making like these top 10 lists of video games, and it's all games that are like came out within like the last like 10 or 12 years, and like seeing the conversation really shift more towards like the modern side. And so I think talking about our memories is like a really good way of being like, hey, like we can't forget where we came from because the industry's already trying hard enough to erase the history of the games that they put out before. And the pervasive feeling is like this, oh, well, if it's an old game, it must be sucky. And that's not always necessarily the case with the game that's older. So I really value what you do in talking to people. I think that's something that we have to kind of do and talk about our memories, because if we're always just talking about what's current, if we're always just talking about what's coming next, if we're always just talking about the biggest news or the biggest scandal, like we're always looking forward and never looking back. And it is important to look back and understand kind of where we came from, if you get what I'm saying.
100%. I would like to say I had more noble reasons why I do it that way, but I didn't think through that deep. It was just I genuinely love the art form.
Yeah.
The medium. It's important to me. Like really, really important to me. So I just wanted to talk about it, and I want to like talk about the things that were important to me. And that just meant like the games that I played growing up. And even I'll talk about modern stuff. I did consciously later think I need to be genuine. I don't want to compete and do the same thing everybody's else doing, because someone else is already doing it and they're doing it better than I'm going to do it, because they've already established they have a system. They have there's a lot of guys that cover top 10s and modern and more recent stuff that I love. They put out great content. I subscribe to them. They already nailed it, right? I'm not want to compete with them. Like their shit is awesome, but that's why I started getting into the emulation stuff. It's like, well, what do I genuinely do that's different than everybody else, or not that different, but what am I genuinely like a super nerd about? And I started thinking about it, like, oh yeah, I put out the podcast, but really, what am I spending all my time doing? I'm fucking spending hours trying to get Vagrant Story running in 4K 60. Is that possible? Can that be done? And 5 years later, I accomplished it like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, that's just I just started being like I'm into like the old shit. That's what I do. I like to talk to people about it, and luckily, it's also I think good for the community. Yeah, like you were saying, all the reasons you said.
Yeah, I think it's you brought up the just appreciation for the art form as well, and we've kind of, collectively kind of spent a large portion of our lives like fighting for that legitimacy. Like, oh, like this isn't just like a waste of time. Like it genuinely is a art form. So I think the things that you do really do kind of showcase that because they can bring some of these older games back to life and kind of showcase them in their best version and kind of like, oh, like this is what their potential was to be. And especially like again going back to the Alan Wake 2 thing when you detached the camera and went around and you had the zooming in shot. I think it was like the phone booth of the phone and just like
Yes.
all this stuff.
And you can see the water from the rain like
Yes,
dripping
and
down the
and you
phone
realize
booth.
you're just like this is a fucking art form because just like
Yes.
just look at this. Like this is a creative output that somebody spent hours and hours and hours like to make, and that aspect of it like doesn't get discussed. We're so wrapped up in what is it? What did this game review? What is its review scores? Like how and just that type of conversation around it, and then just arguing about, oh, this game is great. Oh, you didn't beat Elden Ring as a naked dude. Like you didn't actually beat the game, or all this other stuff. Like we argue about the stupidest shit when we miss this appreciation of something that's like really a miracle of modern technology that's like right in front of us that uh, really sometimes has no reason to exist. So that's a good transition into some of the work you do. I kind of like that transition. So I've seen I'm an avid follower of all your channels. I see a lot of the content, the like the short form content you put out, reels, TikTok, all that stuff. Some of those videos really exploded. Like just impressive the amount of engagement and stuff you got with that. So as a marketing person, I that really impresses me. So first of all, let me ask you, what is it like when you put out a video like that and then you open like your phone and you just see like just I can't be an astronomical number of just notifications of people
Yeah.
liking stuff, commenting on stuff. Like what is that like? Because I think I've gotten the most like 10 notifications on something at once ever. So I can't imagine seeing like 500 notifications wouldn't just be overwhelming.
It's in the beginning, it was a little, but it was also, man, I needed it, right? I had been grinding social media content, and I come from a marketing background as well. My day job is marketing. I run a marketing agency, but I'd
Very
never done
cool.
social media. And part of the reason I, I didn't start the podcast specifically for that. I started the podcast to talk to my friends about video games. But as it continued to go, and I kept with it after the first year or two, I was getting access to better guests. I'm like, well, I should probably like learn how to market this. People, a lot of my clients keep asking for social media marketing. We just tell them we don't do it. Somebody focus on it, refer them to somebody else. So it's like, let me see if I can crack this code. And dude, especially Instagram, Instagram was so brutal. And I kept reading that people would break through, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in, and I just kept making videos and trying different things and just dud, dud, dud. No, I think 5 years in, I had 800 followers. And then
Yeah.
I finally like stumbled in to like something that works. Like I finally figured out a formula that works. That is genuinely me that nobody else is doing that I can do. And then I went from 800 followers to like almost 70,000 in like less than a year, which is grand scheme of things, that's nothing. But in a little like really niche video game, brutal world, like where I had spent 5 years to eke away like 20 followers a year, something like that. Like it was awesome at first, and then it got really overwhelming because I did not expect that. Like people say, if you do well on social media, there's going to be hate, right? But I always thought it's like it's probably like 5% of people. Most people are cool. Most people I meet in real life are cool. The trolls out there, they really got it. Can't be that many people. Oh my God. Like, oh my God.
It's a lot of people.
Dude, there is a lot of people that just hate life. Like, because I don't actually read comments on other stuff. Sometimes I will if I think they're going to be funny. So and a lot of times Instagram and all these different Reddit platforms, TikTok, they'll aggregate the comments based on popularity. So you're seeing all the good stuff at the top. And you'll see some rage bait shit because people said something crazy, but it's generally curated. When you're the creator and you're just seeing this shit come in, you realize there's so much hate that just gets buried that you don't see on other people's stuff, or it gets deleted. It gets automatically filtered out by like their filtering system. And yeah, so I was really surprised at how angry people would get at me over like increasing the resolution of an old game. And
it's almost like they would take it as a personal attack to like,
yeah,
you're ruining their memories by doing this thing because that's not the way that they played it.
and at the beginning there was a lot of people claiming that I was like, what's the word, by hand or manually like degrading the original footage to make the contrast between the settings seem greater. Like the first year, and I ended up putting out a couple of videos and they're still pinned on my channel. And once I put those videos up explaining like, no, this is what's going on. And for a while I just respond like, okay, I got to the point I just say like, okay, upload a video and show me. Upload a video.
And people,
Let's go on a podcast and record it live and show me how I'm doing it. Show me the right way to do it. And then I would just pin those comments. And after like a year, no one says it anymore. Like
right.
People got over it. It's like, dude, the game runs at like 300 by 200 resolution.
Yeah.
Right. And you're blowing it up to like 1920 by 1080 to fit your phone. And like, what do you like? Yes. You were playing it on a CRT TV back in the day. You'd never seen anything that was high res in your life. Like, go throw in an old movie in a VCR and put it on your new 4K OLED and tell me it doesn't look like dog shit. That's just the way this stuff happens, bro. So that was really frustrating. I took it personal and I made a couple like angry response videos and they did really, really well. So I thought like, oh, I should do more of these. So I did a couple more and I realized I don't want to be that guy. Like you have to live in a place of like negativity, of constantly like trying to go to bat with the trolls. So I stopped and now I just focus on, I know for sure if I do an emulation, what did you call it? Emulation transformation. Like those do really well, but it's a 1 minute video, but it can take me like 7 to 8 hours to put it together. They're really time intensive. I'd love to do more of them, but they just take a lot of time, but they also do really well. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think the fact that they do well shows the quality of them. But yeah, if your plan is to just go to war with the trolls, that's a losing fight because there are always just more and more of them, no matter how many of them you strike them down. Yeah, I really like the one video in I think that you just are pretty much telling people it's like why your memory is shit.
Yes,
basically, and you talk about the stretching of the game, how you have to blow it up to fit TikTok, blow it up to fit the smartphone resolution, and just like. Even now, and it was even something I experienced last year when I played Super Mario RPG again for the first time in many years. And my memory of that game, the way it looked, wasn't as good as I remember because I was playing it on the flat LED screen of my laptop.
Yes.
And the game was designed for a CRT TV that had the scan lines in it, so that the way that they designed the pixels was to take advantage of like the spacing of the lines, and so it would look a lot better. And and I didn't really think about that until like I was watching your videos, and I was like, oh, like that really does kind of make sense. Not that everything that you play today, like I'm emulating stuff a lot more, especially as we do more stuff for like King of Games, especially as I want to play older stuff, just because. Trying to get older stuff on the market today is just way too expensive. And
that's another subject I want to talk on. It's just the ethics of emulation because I think it's important.
Yes.
Anyway,
well, I'll transition to that because I want to talk all to you about that, but kind of just your process and how you go through that. But you don't really realize it until like watching a video like that, and you're just like, man, that's right. The technology has changed, and the way that these games were made at the time and the technology that they were made for, trying to play on something modern today, even like emulation or anything like that, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be a 1-to-1, and you're always going to kind of have the rose tinted glasses of nostalgia, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and you're going to have if you want to play it the way you remember, you're going to have to go out and track down a CRT TV, which I don't actually know how difficult that is nowadays. It might be pretty difficult. They might be endangered species. And then you have to buy the original hardware, buy the original game, buy the original controllers, the cables, all that stuff. And people since the pandemic have gotten wise and like, oh, people want this stuff,
Yep.
and it costs way too much money now. So that's why we should pirate. So let's go into some of that emulation stuff because I want to talk to you about it. So you said that those videos take you 7-8 hours. So just starting off when you're trying a game, you have an idea for a video or a game that you want to make look great. What's that? How does that process start? Do you have a game automatically? Does somebody come to you and ask you for a game, or how does that process kind of start?
It's both. I tried to keep up with requests in the beginning, but they got too high, and so I just stopped saying I would do stuff because they take 7 to 8 hours. So I do occasionally, very occasionally, and I'm not saying people have to do this, but it's appreciated. Someone will send me like 10 to $50 to do a game. So if that happens, like that's the next game I do. End of story, right? You
Yeah,
fucking paid
absolutely.
me money. That shit's coming out. And I'll just go and research and find out like what can be done with that game. And that's fun sometimes. Like I got recently asked about MS Saga A New Dawn, which is a Gundam JRPG on PS2 that I had never heard of.
That's
I
wild.
feel like I'm pretty well versed in a lot of obscure shit, and I'd never heard of it. So I did a video on it because a guy, I forget his name, kudos to you, paid I think like $20, and the video's doing really well. It's still like going to this day. There's a lot of love out there for that game that I didn't even know existed, and it was fun to go through and like do a game I knew nothing about and figure out what can be done. But the process is like once a game is decided, and that's either someone requested it, someone paid for it, or there's some YouTube channels I'd recommend for those who are interested. I want to give some people a shout out because this is where I keep track of like new emulation emulation shit that's coming out, new mods, new hacks. So I want to give a shout out to a couple of these. Never talked to these people. They're just awesome. Emulators and Gameplay HD. It's a channel I've subscribed to. They have 13,800 subscribers. No Big Deal Space LA is another one. Constantly just like showcasing settings and texture packs as they come out for different games. Retro Crisis. Let's just go quick. I don't want to spend forever on this. Gaming. No. Just say those two. Those are the two that I look at the most. And what will happen is they're constantly posting, like if a new texture pack comes out for a game, they post like a 5 to 10 minute quick play of the first level with the settings so you can see what the game looks like. And they'll usually link to like, here's the new texture pack, here are my settings on the emulator. So it helps me figure out settings quick. Now everyone's PC is a little bit different. So I'll usually start with their recommended settings, but then I'm going to start tweaking and kind of seeing how it works on my system, what my system can do. Maybe there's options out there that they didn't feature. So first, if something comes out like I don't know, what's I don't even remember what my most recent one is. Like, okay, there's a Resident Evil Code Veronica one he posted recently. That's something I might look at and be like, dude, I haven't played Code Veronica in forever. Now they have an HD texture pack on it for the Dreamcast emulator. Okay, what can I do? Okay, let's see what I can do. And then I'll pick that. Then it's like I start experimenting. So I think the best example would be like if it's a PS1 game, there's like a set system. I'm either going to choose Beetle HW, which is the RetroArch emulator. For those of RetroArch's like pretty popular front end that has lots of emulators, or I'm going
Right.
to choose DuckStation. And the main thing that I'm going to choose between those two is does the PS1 game have a texture pack, community texture pack option or not? If it doesn't, then I'm going to use DuckStation because it's better overall. But Beetle's the only thing that offers texture replacement right now. DuckStation will probably offer it. It'll probably be updated. Okay, let's say it doesn't have that. Okay, then I'm going to go to DuckStation. Then I'm going to start with kind of my standard settings. Usually I want to put the resolution to like 8x. I'll check like, can I run this game in widescreen or ultra widescreen? Because a lot of PS1 games, the geometry doesn't pop in wider. Like they can go in and hack the camera and make the FOV wider with emulation, but then you realize the game is
Oh
not even
yeah,
the game is not even rendering the geometry out that wide because they were so
because they didn't
limited.
have. Yeah, because they didn't have to back then. Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't have to. So like,
that's
okay,
fascinating.
but some games do. Like Vagrant Story is fine. Like it works, but like I love Einhander. It's this PS1 shmup, my favorite shmup of all time. And it looks
Yep.
so good. And shmups are generally side horizontal. Like a wider screen is better for gameplay, right? And it like renders at ultra widescreen 20 by 9. So like I like ultra widescreen if I can. it renders everything minus just the geometry like at the edge of the screen, and it's just enough to like mess with my eyes to be distracting, where I'm like, it's so close to like the perfect settings, but there's limitations, right? I can't make it happen, so you got to go 16:9 or regular 4:3. So I'll usually check for that, and then I'll start playing with PGXP options, which are these set of settings that help reduce the warble and the jitter that's in common in PS1 games.
Yeah.
Then I'll check for texture packs, and then then I'll look at like reshade, the cheats or hacks. Like, is there a FPS cheat code that will unlock the FPS and give you 60 FPS? If you do get 60 FPS, does it break the game's logic? Is the game's logic tied to FPS? Does it speed the game up? Oh, there's no chat. Well, what if I overclock the CPU? Some games like Alien Resurrection is one of the few games on PlayStation 1 that if you overclock the CPU, it will run in 60 FPS. It won't mess with logic. Game logic's not tied to frames. Some games you overclock the CPU, the frame rate's locked. Like I was just messing with Ape Escape for King of Games. That frame rate is locked at 29.95. You can overclock the CPU to like 800%. Like 8 times faster PS1 CPU won't change how the game behaves. Most games, if you overclock the CPU, the game just speeds up. So like
That makes sense.
I
Yeah.
was checking, like, okay, is there a way to get 60 FPS? Is there a hack? Can I overclock it? And the best thing that I found recently, it's kind of a fake 60 FPS, but I've been trying to find a solution for this so long because there's so few games that you can get at 60 FPS on the PS1 without speeding the game up. There's a program on Steam called lossless scaling. It's like $6. And it's
Yes.
mainly like resolution upreser. So if you have like a potato PC, but you want to play a game at a higher resolution, it's like DLSS or AMD FSR, but like a outsourced homebrew community version. So you can take like any old game, but it's really good for emulators because a lot of emulators are not optimized. Like these things are like sourced for the community. And so like a lot of times the overhead on emulators, it's an old game, but it's actually pretty hard for your PC to run it because your PC's pretending to be a PS3. Your PC's pretending to be a Switch through software and all that stuff. So being able to upres something so you can run the game at a lower resolution is useful. I have a pretty decent video card, so I don't have to do that, but it has another feature called LSFG interpolation, which is really similar to DLSS frame generation, where it's not like the typical interpolation, like when you turn on motion on your TV and makes everything look like a soap opera. This
Right.
is AI. This is AI trained that's looking at every single pixel, and based on every single pixel, it's interpolating the next frame. And it works really good. You get a little bit of like aliasing around edges, like your character's head when you turn the camera. Sometimes you'll see like the tiniest bit of warping. But because a lot of PS1 games, the logic was built around the game running at 15 frames or 20 frames or 30 frames, they had to do that on purpose because they knew it was going to be a low frame rate. So they built everything around that. That's one of the reasons why we talked about Wave Race being so good. Ran it at
Yeah.
like 18 frames a second, but they built all the physics and the animations to work at that frame rate. So it feels good. And I think a lot of PS1 games, it's actually better to still play them at that original FPS. But if you want that smooth look, then you can use lossless scaling. And a lot of them are running at 30 FPS. When you have a solid 30 FPS, it's really easy for lossless scaling to turn that into 60 FPS or 144 because it's a constant frame rate. Works amazing. So a lot of people be like, ew. I get comments like, why would you want to ruin that? It's not made to be like, sure, it's not. I'm a mad scientist. I want to see what Vagrant Story looks like with AI upscaled textures, 60 FPS interpolation, and reshade dynamic RTGI lighting. Like, let's fucking go. Let's see what it looks like. Maybe it sucks, but it's fun. And I genuinely just love it. It's so fun to me.
Yeah, I look forward to any time you put a video like that out because yeah, it genuinely is okay. What is the potential of this game that where they were never thinking 20 years ago that this would be a thing that they'd have to worry about or think or design it that way. So you actually kind of went into one of my other points I was going to ask you too because I would have to assume that in a lot of those videos people probably don't appreciate the amount of work that goes into that because like you said you're playing with a lot of different settings so it's not just the case where you're just like slapping in a game and then just like you have like oh these are my default settings for that I always turn on for this stuff to look this good. You really have to dig in and kind of tinker with each thing that you go in and kind of make changes to, or if you're doing HE textures or stuff like that, you have to kind of Because it's not like a one size fits all for every game, correct?
It's close. Like what's good about it, because a lot of times people say it's too much work, and I'm like, don't be scared. In the beginning, it is a lot of tinkering the settings, but once you learn, kind of like in general, I have settings that will like get me 80% of the way, 80% of the time for any PS1 game, right? And I know really the things I'm going to be tinkering with is, does this game have a texture pack? How does the PGXP work on this game? Can it do widescreen? Can I get 60 FPS? Like 4 variables. Whereas everything else, like I know what render I'm going to use. I know what resolution I'm going to use. I know like all the other settings are pretty much my control settings. Although sometimes there will be another thing that I'll look into, like with Mega Man Legends, games that I will sometimes remap the controls to have more
Oh
modern
yeah.
control scheme. So what I found out is if an FPS or a third person action game had strafe, that's awesome. So, like for example, Medal of Honor on the PlayStation 1 had strafe, but you used like the L and R button, and it wasn't like modern controls. But
Oh
if the
yeah,
game
yeah.
has strafe, you can remap the strafe to the right stick, like it would be in a modern game. So like I can play Medal of Honor on PlayStation 1 and it doesn't control exactly like Halo, like a dual analog shock or Alien Resurrection, because like the sensitivities weren't tuned for that, but the
Yeah.
functionality. And so it's like you're playing through Medal of Honor where you can turn and strafe and use dual joysticks. Makes the game really easy because you weren't
Yeah.
supposed to be able to be that dynamic when you play the game. It's really, really fun. Or Mega Man Legends, you can not turn the camera with the L and R, and you can actually map the fire button instead of to X to your trigger, so you're not moving your fingers off the thumb if you want. So that will be like a fifth variable depending on the game. Do I need to remap the controls for a better experience? And if so, what can I do? Some games are weird. Like there's this Psygnosis FPS, late PS1. Oh, I have to remember. You can edit this pause down because Psygnosis is a developer I love.
For sure.
Psygnosis FPS PS1. Why can't I remember it? Life Force Tenka. Never heard of this game. Like I missed it somehow and I love Psygnosis. They make this game, Life Force Tenka, and it has strafe, but for some reason, when you remap the strafe to the L and R stick, it doesn't work. I don't know why.
That's weird.
So there's a lot of frustrations where like you'll get a game like Life Force Tenka or Einhander, like so close to like what you would want from an actual remaster. Like I would want to play Einhander in ultra widescreen if they put out an official remaster. And I'm like 90% there, but I can't quite get it. Sometimes that's really frustrating because you're like, I'm so close to getting the experience I would want, but I'm limited and I'm not smart enough to do these hacks and stuff, right? I have to hope that there's some crazy programmer guy that's a genius that also loves Einhander and decides to like, I'm going to write a widescreen hack for this game and deposit into the open source GitHub for DuckStation and add a cheat for it so that you can play, I have to just pray that that happens.
We have I have to say we have a little bit of hope for the Einhander remaster because there's actually a secret boss in Kingdom Hearts 3 related to Einhander. It's the Schwarzgeist that's in the gummy ship section. So
Oh,
they obviously put that in there as a nice little Easter egg. Maybe someone at Square Enix is thinking, hey, Einhander, let's do it. That'd be a perfect.
oh my
Seems like that'd be
God.
a
Day
perfect
one
like
buy.
hand. It
Day
seems like
one
it'd be a
buy.
perfect handheld. I'd love to have that
Yeah.
on like my Steam Deck or Switch or something. That'd be dope as fuck to have for sure. So and yeah, I agree with you too. So the one thing I am capable of doing, yes, is remapping controls, and I have an Xbox One controller that's made by Razer that I can plug into my games, and it has the 4 panels on the back that
Oh,
act as
nice.
extra buttons.
Yes.
So I can having those extra buttons on like older games and stuff, and having a joystick and stuff really makes those a lot more fun to play. But damn it, Kate, sometimes you're just ruining things by making things too modern. Like why
Well,
would you go and do that? Why would you go and do that, man?
the
Like,
good
come
thing
on.
about emulation that I love about emulation is tweak it to your personal taste. Like,
Right.
I've been playing around with more CRT retro stuff. Like, okay, well, if I want to get that CRT experience, there's a whole world of CRT shaders of people trying to capture that as a shader that you can overlay on the game and get close to that. And that's really subjective. I've shared a few videos. My favorite CRT shaders on our YouTube channel by Retro Crisis. He has a download pack that works for RetroArch. He has a PlayStation 1 specific, a clean shader and a dirty shader that
You
I
did the
think,
one for Symphony of the Night that looks really good.
yeah,
I
a
remember,
few
yeah.
people bitched about it because that always happens, but lots of people were like, actually, that CRT shader is good. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that guy, I don't know how he does it. Shout out to him. I've had a few conversations with him online in our DMs, just like dude, you'd make the best. I'm so glad you make this stuff. It's awesome. Um, he's like, I don't know what he's doing and how he's figuring it out, but he has the closest, most convincing CRT shaders that I've ever seen by far. So I think sometimes I'll even up-res a game, put new textures on it, inject like crazy new lighting, and then I'll throw a CRT shader on top of it because why not? Let's just see. Right. I think that the mixing of like modern and retro aesthetics, and I'm not the only one that's doing it, obviously. Like a lot of these HD 2D remasters for JRPGs and indie games, they have pixels, but then that's in 3D. They have depth. Like I'm playing Uden Chronicles 100 Heroes. It has like real-time lighting on the pixels, but then there's like they're blending modern and retro, and I think it looks really cool. And so I think
Mhm.
that's really fun to do with emulation, and you can tweak it to your personal extent. If you're like an OG, I want to play original hardware, but you can't afford it, you can get pretty close to that experience with emulation. There's a lot of options with people who are obsessed with accuracy, where you can like say, don't, you can turn off all these enhancements that like make the game run better, right? You want the slowdown. You want it to get as close as mimicking the actual original hardware experience. There's a whole rabbit hole of tweaking your emulation settings like that. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole because that's not my personal taste, but don't let that
Mhm.
turn you away, right? If you want to pursue that purest experience, yes, you're never going to be able to replace holding an actual SNES controller, playing Donkey Kong Country on a CRT the way it was designed. Like that is an experience that if you want that experience to the 100%, you can only get by going out and spending the money and finding the CRT. But if you can't do that and you want to get 85% of that experience, you can do that with emulation too.
Transitioning to you mentioned a while back too. You wanted to talk about just kind of the ethics of emulation in general. So, do you have any kind of thoughts on the ethics of that? I mean, we talk a lot about these days like video game preservation and companies, especially like Nintendo, being overtly hostile to people that in the emulation community who kind of put in the work to make these games available for us when they don't seem interested in making these games available to us, even when we're sitting here and saying, or like the travesty with like the 3DS eShop or the Wii U eShop, and we're just like, hey, like we want these old games, we will pay you for them, and you're not even willing to give them to us. So, what do you think? Just you said you had some comments on just the ethics
Yes.
of emulation in general.
So there's, I think, like 3 to 4 angles that I look at emulation. I've thought about it a lot because it does get brought up. Not a ton. Every once in a while, someone will comment like that's that. And I did have a dude who I got into it with the comments, threatened to get all my accounts taken down, and then he attacked all my accounts with bot farms. And I had to
Oh,
I had to
that
get on
sucks.
like Facebook customer support and be like, "Yo, I'm not doing this. Here's the screenshots of him threatening, saying he was going to do it." Luckily, one of my clients is like has an in at TikTok, so I was able to like get a hold of their support and be like, because I got like flagged for financial fraud on TikTok.
Oh,
He like mass reported me for financial fraud,
oh.
like financial content or something.
Yeah,
But
because
and like
that's what you're doing by making video games look
yeah,
better is obviously like embezzling money.
so and he was right. One of the games he was like, dude, you don't own this game, and I actually do own the game, but how is he supposed to know that? And most of the games I play, a lot of them I did download. Let's be real, I downloaded them,
Right.
especially these retro games. Like, how can you get a hold of them? So I wanted to be very clear. Like, technically, if you download a game for free off the internet and play it on an emulator, the downloading of that game is illegal. The emulator itself is not illegal. Emulators are not illegal. That's already been nailed down in court multiple times. No one can do anything about them. Um, they don't take any original code, right? It's all original code. It's just tricking your PC into thinking it's a PlayStation or a Super Nintendo, essentially. That's the layman's term. Now, just because something is illegal doesn't mean it is unethical. And just because something is legal does not mean it's ethical, right? So
Yes.
I am not going to beat around the bush. Yes, people say it's illegal to download games. Yes, it is. It is illegal to download games. It's also illegal to not stop completely at a stop sign, and none of us care about that. Why? What's the difference? Because not stopping at a stop sign, you could argue you're endangering people, right? It is risky. You are putting other people's lives at danger, but realistically, you don't need to come to a complete stop to adequately check to see if it's safe to cross the street. You can check both ways, figure out if those cars are too far or too close away, and then make the decision and drive across the street without putting anyone into danger. Like humans can do that without coming to a complete stop. So that'd be the counter argument. You're not really putting, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so the question is, who are you hurting and who are you potentially hurting if you download a game? Now there's different situations. If that game is commercially available, then I think that is ethically wrong. And I do that sometimes. I sometimes make ethically wrong mistakes. Sometimes that there'll be a pathway to like play Symphony. You can play Symphony of the Night on PS4 right now.
Right.
I don't want to play it on PS4. I want to play it on my PC.
Right.
And you don't have a PC version. So I'm going to download the original PlayStation version and play it on an emulator. I would argue that that is illegal, and you could make the argument, and I would concede that is unethical because there is a commercial pathway for me to go play it, but I just don't want to play it on that platform. Right. So that's a gray area where, like, if you wanted to say that's unethical, I'd be like, yeah, okay, fair point. I'm not perfect. Report me. Right. It's like, I still don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think I would accept the argument that's a little bit unethical. Now, to what you were saying about Nintendo and preservation, there's statistics out there that people will quote between 80 to 97% of all games are abandonware. There is no commercial pathway to get these games, most of them. Now, and a lot of them aren't even available physically. Like a lot of DOS games, there's not a secondhand market for DOS floppy disks like there is for Super Nintendo games, right? So if you want like an original DOS floppy disk of the original Doom 2 shareware, whatever, like that might actually be, I should take that back. There might be a bajillion of those out there because they printed so many of them. That might actually be easy to get a hold of, but you get what I'm trying to say. So there's a set of games that aren't commercially available, or sorry, that are not privately available on the secondhand market, and they're abandoned. I think those are cut and dry. There is nothing wrong. There's no one on eBay selling it, and there's no one that actually owns the software of the game or the rights selling it. There is no pathway for you to spend your money on this game. Go download it. No one gives a shit. I don't think you're doing anything unethical. Don't come at me. That is not unethical. I don't care who you are. Now, there's a little more gray area. Well, maybe the game doesn't exist commercially, right? Nintendo's not selling it. It's an old game, or maybe the publisher went out of business and whoever bought the rights doesn't care about it, right? There's no commercial pathway to buy the game, but there is someone like you or I that have a physical copy that we got from a garage sale or we inherited from the childhood that you could go on eBay and buy. Now, the question is, if let's say I just bought a copy of this because I think it's going to go up in value, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3.
Yep. Sparking Zero coming out for sure.
If you want to play this game, let's say you want to play it, and I'm the only guy on the internet selling it, and I want $500 for it. Do you ethically owe me $500 to play this game, or can you just download it?
I wouldn't. I would say that probably charging $500 for it is unethical.
Okay,
as well.
Let's say I bought it for $100 and I want to sell it for $120. I want to make $20. Do you owe me money? Did I make the game? Did I code the game? Am I involved in the development? Did I put any blood, sweat, and tears, or did I just happen to buy this or get a hold of it? Because I have a physical copy, can I lay claim ethically to your money for the experience of playing the game?
That's true, but you could technically expand that argument to like just basically the entire like collectible market then, because that's all that gaming collecting is, and same thing with like trading cards and baseball cards and all that stuff. So similar type of thing.
I thought about this extensively. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, cause that's what people do. It's like you buy packs of cards in the hopes that you get the cards that are worth the value, and then you go and you resell them for more money. But you didn't print that card, but you did purchase the card to begin with. So
yes,
yeah, like what is that? Yeah, that's actually a really good question.
And the people who made the card got their money when it was bought the first time. That was the exchange of value, right? And what you do on the secondhand market, they don't lay claim to because now it's yours. I can buy this, like audio. I'm way into music shit, right? Retro music shit. I just bought a Moog Sub 37, and like those are really expensive, right? Someone bought it originally from Moog and paid the money. They had a value exchange with the manufacturer. The manufacturer said, I will give you this synthesizer in behalf of like $1,200. They made their value exchange. Now that synthesizer is hard to get a hold of now. Maybe he wants to sell to me for 1,800. Moog is not trying to lay any claim. You got to pay me a tax. You got to pay me. No, you bought my product. It's yours now, right?
Right.
Now, I think the argument is if you are one of those OG types that you are hell bent and you only want to play Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 on original hardware on a CRT, then yeah, you got to pay me because I actually have the physical disc, right?
Right.
But if you don't care about having that original experience and you want to just download the game, I do not think you are hurting me or taking away from anything because I can still sell this to somebody else that wants it, right?
Right.
There's a market for it. So if you decide, you know what, I don't care about playing it on original hardware, the original way it was meant to be played, and whoever, I don't know who published this, Funimation and Atari don't want my money for it. So I'm going to go download it. I also think that is not unethical. I do not think you owe me any money simply because I have a physical copy of the game. You owe me money if you want to play it on the physical copy. And if you were to steal that from me, come to my house and steal from me, then obviously, yes, that's stealing. Right? You're taking something away from me. But if you just download the game, you're not taking away from me. I still have this game and I can still sell it to somebody else. You're not taking any money or value out of my pocket. And because Atari and Funimation have decided they don't want your money for this game, I look at that as like rolling a stop sign. And then the third part is all right, yeah. And then obviously people do pirate. But yes, people say, well, emulation is used for piracy. Yep. 100%. A bunch of people pirate games that they could buy somewhere else and they played on the computer. But Chris from Retro Hangover brought up a good point. He said, what about this third thing? Like I mentioned with Symphony of the Night, what if the game has been re-released? Or what if there's for example, Sonic Adventure? We've been talking about Sonic Adventure, foreshadowing, right? The Sonic Adventure PC port, lots of people hate.
It sucks.
It sucks, right? And they changed. They didn't just like that. They changed it. They changed the models. They changed the dialogue. They changed fonts. They changed a lot of stuff. There are mods out there so that you can remod it back closer to the original Dreamcast version.
Right.
So if you want to play Sonic Adventure, which you would probably have recently because you had to make that choice, Chris would make the argument, and I think he has a very valid argument, that, okay, Sega will take your money and you can buy Sonic Adventure DX on Steam. But it sucks. And the Dreamcast version is better. And they have given you no pathway to buy the Dreamcast version.
Right.
So some people would argue, well, I'm taking the Dreamcast version. I'm not taking the version that they have given me a pathway to purchase commercially. Right. I think you could make the argument that that is also not unethical. I would say maybe it's a little unethical, but not enough for me to care. Like, okay, I'm not perfect, right? I bought both, right? I wanted to test them and play. I'll probably do a video on it. The differences and like, so for me, it works for content. But even if I just like, oh, I want to play the Dreamcast version, I can't buy that version from Sega. And then also on top of that, okay, and sometimes people pirate games. And sure, there's a lot of people that I get comments from. The most excited people are people from Eastern Europe and South America. And they send me messages like, there's no way for me to get this game. And even if I could, it would cost me like 3 months rent. And you showed me how to get it on PC and how to get it up and running. I've loved this game since I was a childhood. You know what? I don't give a fuck if they pirate the game. I think that's fair. And yes, sometimes I pirate games. And if you want to say, well, you steal games sometimes. Yes, I do. And you steal shit all the time too. And I'm not judging you. So leave me alone.
True. You've given me a lot of thoughts, a lot of different directions I can go that respond to that. So, so the last thing that you mentioned kind of about Sonic Adventure being and stuff like that being available, we ran into something similarly too. Again, maybe this is a little bit of foreshadowing with recently playing Grandia. And Grandia has the 1 and 2 HD collection out. But a lot of people don't like that one as well. And I got to speak with Corey from My Life in Gaming, and he said that just a lot of the stuff they did with like the sprites and the textures and stuff, because that version is supposed to be like the best of the Saturn version and the PS1 version like combined. And for whatever reason, it's not that. And a lot of companies, I would argue too, like there are some very good remasters out there that do some incredible things and bring the game up to a modern standard. There are devs that put in a lot of work and do that.
Can I would plug say that Star Ocean Second Story R for that?
For sure, yes.
Amazing.
I would say that there are also some that are just like releases like a remaster for like a quick cash grab.
Yes.
And they're just like, oh, people want like this on the modern thing. All right, we'll just toss it out there and not put in the work to like polish it or do any of the work that it needs done to it, just to kind of put it out there and be like, oh, we can get money from this. And I would argue in that instance that I would say it's definitely okay to go and download like the original thing if they're putting it out there in bad faith, not giving you like the product that you would deserve for the money that you're going to pay for it. Because if it's just it's I think something like that similar happened with like the Battlefront collection they recently put out, and that was just a hot fucking mess, and they were just trying to capitalize on people because people love those games. They were incredible on the PlayStation, and people have been clamoring to get them like on modern hardware for however many years, and they just toss it out there, and it's a disaster. So the other thing too, I think, in the cases where like we have mentioned Nintendo's gone after a lot of people for doing like Switch stuff, and I could see the argument where you could make the claim as Nintendo that hurts your business because that's still your generation of console. Those are games that you can still actively get in store. Like I see tons of people on YouTube doing like modded like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild stuff, and I'm like, you guys are just playing with fire. That's kind of dangerous with how litigious Nintendo is. But in one point where I can take away something as popular as Pokemon. There was a statistic that like it's at least over half of the generations of Pokemon games are just unavailable to get any way commercially.
Which
like,
is crazy. Do they not like money?
Exactly. And there's such a robust like mod scene and such robust emulation scene for the Pokemon games specifically.
Yes.
All of the ones that you can't get. People are still playing like Red and Blue, Gold, Silver, Ruby, Sapphire. Even all those games all the way up to like the 3DS, it's like they're not printing new copies of those. You can't buy those on the 3DS eShop anymore because like it's shut down. So like pretty much anything that's not a modern Pokemon game like on the Switch, you can't get commercially. Yep. So, which is insane to me that they wouldn't want to make those available. So, in cases like that, I would say, yeah, like fucking go for it. Especially because when you go back to that older stuff, like Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, like that's some of the easiest stuff to emulate because you don't have to set up a lot of the other stuff you do with like some of the more modern consoles. You have to set up a lot of stuff with emulation and stuff. Yes. And I'm slowly starting to learn that. Game Boy, you can just download an emulator, hit the ROM, and you're just off. You're off to the races. Yeah. So yeah, that blows my mind that. Like Pokemon of all things, like you're just a money-making machine. You wouldn't want to make your older games available. And that's just, like you said, that goes into like 80% of things are just unavailable to play. And then that's not even getting into this game of, oh yeah, the rights by this game from the 90s was bought by this company, which was bought by this company, which was bought by this company, which was bought by this giant conglomerate now. And it's a company that doesn't even exist anymore. So it's like those rights are just in a dark closet somewhere that nobody's doing anything with.
Yep.
Like, from a preservation standpoint, like, what are you supposed to, like, what do you do with that? And it's just, yeah, I will never get on anyone's case for, like, emulating. If you're getting into, like, the modern stuff, I know they're going after a lot of Switch emulation and stuff like that. That's where I would caution you to be careful, for sure.
I've never done Switch video. I've never done a Switch game. Never have.
There's, like I said, there's a really, there's a robust
shit out there. Trust me, I've been watching the videos. They're awesome.
Yeah. There's some like crazy fucking like Breath of the Wild randomizers and stuff where I'm just like, this is like Nintendo's most popular game right now. Like you're really playing with
personally,
fire.
But putting out as content is sketchy. You brought up a good point. So I want to recap. There's like different tiers. At the bottom of the tier where I think it's cut and dry, there's no ethical issues involved, is if the game is completely abandoned and the game is so rare, there's not even really a secondhand market for it. I think that's cut and dry. Nobody could argue that that's unethical. The next step up where I could see someone making the argument it's slightly unethical is what we mentioned, where the game is available on the secondhand market, like Dragon Ball Z, but not available commercially. I don't think you ethically owe me any money if you want to emulate that game because I can still sell this copy. The next tier up would be the game is available commercially, but it's like a different version. That's the Grandia, the Sonic DX, whatever. And is it unethical to download the original version? Then the next tier up would be more like what you're talking about with the Switch, is the game is available commercially. It's modern. I really want to play Astral Chain on the Switch. I bought it for Switch, but it is the frame rate is atrocious and the resolution is low, and I'm kind of a snob. I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome? The game's art. It's a Platinum action game, right? Platinum Games is all about action. I love their style. Like I would love to play this game on my PC in 4K 60 and record it and put content out. I can do that with the Switch emulator. Now, in the case of this game, I did purchase it, but let's say I didn't. Some people would make the argument, well, I can't, people say Nintendo doesn't care about graphics because they don't matter. They can sell units. The reason I don't buy Switch games is partially because that, right? I don't want to play an inferior experience. I am that small subgroup that is really snobby, and I understand it's snobby. It is what it is. It's important to me. So what if I can play Ocarina of Time remastered on 3D. I can play different ways they've re-released Ocarina of Time, but I can also play it on PC with ray trace lighting and way more stuff that I can get the experience I actually want out of the game. So
you can play it randomized. You can play it multiplayer now. There's multiplayer mod.
You can play it in VR.
Yeah.
Right? So the question is like, is it unethical? Because a lot of those require you to download the ROM and then use the ROM as the base asset to play it in VR, right? It's still running off that ROM. The emulator is all original code. So you are still illegally downloading a copy of Ocarina of Time to play it with a randomizer or in VR. But Nintendo offers a commercial pathway to play that game on modern consoles, but they don't offer the VR experience. So if you want that experience, is it unethical to go download the game illegally? Now, with Ocarina of Time, if you're playing it in VR, probably at some point you purchase the game. And that's actually the last tier I wanted to bring up. So the seventh tier, 7 levels of hell in emulation, is the seventh is I've had this thought. Well, what if I bought the game? I sold my PS1 collection at hard times when I was early married. I wish I wouldn't have done it. I had a copy of Suikoden 2. I had 3 copies of Suikoden 2, right?
Oh, man.
And is it illegal for me to download that game and play it? I purchased it at one point, and I gave the developer the money. They got paid. They got their license fee. Everyone who worked on the game got their salary. I supported the game with my dollars. We had that transaction, like you said, with a trading card or a used piece of musical gear. Me and the manufacturer and the developer and the publisher had a business transaction. I exchanged my money in exchange for their product or their service, right? Now that they don't offer that, the Suikoden 2 remaster is not out yet. If I want to play that game, or even if the game is out, right, and I don't like the remaster, but I bought Suikoden 2 3 times back in the day, do I have to buy it on the secondhand market from someone like you that has a copy, or do I have to buy the remaster, or can I just download a copy of the ISO and play it on an emulator? Could I make the argument I did pay for this game? Oh, well, you lost it. You don't own it. Some people are hardcore. If you don't physically own the game, you should not be playing it. And some people hold, and I get it. So those are the 7 tiers. And I would say to someone like that, tiers 4, 5, 6, and 7, I think you have an ethical argument. When you get down to tier 1, 2, and 3, the game is completely abandoned. No one has it on the secondhand market, or you live in Slovakia, and it would cost you 6 months of rent to get the game. Like, no, you cannot tell me that it's unethical. So I think I've thought about this a lot. Like, these are the sub situations where down here at the lower tiers, I think you have a very strong argument there is no ethical issues at all. Then at the higher tier, like me downloading Astral Chain because I want to play in 4K 60 and play it on the Yuzu emulator. Yeah, I do think you can make an argument that that's unethical, but I also want to play that game in 4K 60, so I'm going to do it.
Right. I think that makes sense. I've never actually put as much thought into it as you've kind of broken it down there. And I would argue too that I think the intentions of the person putting out like the remaster or making the game available to be purchased commercially also kind of has a lot to do with some of that justification too. Like I can justify most of like saying, oh, I'll download most DS things because DS games are basically unavailable unless I purchase them from somebody else. And a lot of people too, if they want to experience that, even here in the States, might not have the capacity to be able to buy a copy of Suikoden 2, which I imagine is probably a decent collector's item now, and not probably the cheapest thing to try and own these days for sure. So it's interesting, but if it got to the point where Nintendo started doing things like, oh, we are going to go after take down Game Boy emulation and go after Pokemon Red ROMs and stuff like that, it's been like, that's a Game Boy game from 96, like come on. And you have not made it available for almost 20 something, almost 30 something years now. Yeah. Like what are you doing, like seriously? And I think the emulation community, regardless of the gray ethical areas, kind of does the Lord's work in making sure these things are available, because otherwise they wouldn't be and we wouldn't know about them. And I don't want us to lose the history of
Yeah.
the things that people have worked on, because it's not just losing out on being able to play the game. Like when the credits roll on that game, there are people attached to that game, and if you're not able to experience that, you're not able to see who worked on it, and then those people are getting erased from the work that they did.
Yep.
And something that should be considered like an art form. And I think that's really tragic.
Yeah.
That it's just kind of treated like this commodity. Like, just imagine if they vaulted like the Mona Lisa and we're like, we're not gonna make it so anybody can see it, or unless you pay like the seasonal pass or whatever, which I guess that's a museum, so I guess the argument doesn't really work. But just imagine if they like withheld art from people, or withheld I mean, I guess the book argument doesn't really work either, because we're fucking at the point where we're banning books again. So I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I
Kate.
think you made a good point, though. I think if you extrapolated that a little bit and thought about it more, the Mona Lisa analogy is at least useful to some practical sense, because the Mona Lisa is really popular. So that's like your Mario Brothers, right? You're probably
Right.
going to have a version of that. But if you're way into art history and you love Renaissance art, and there's some guy that got dwarfed, and he was not Da Vinci, he's not famous, but he's important part. Maybe he inspired Da Vinci. He's a precursor to Da Vinci or something, but no one cares about his art. And then it was just lost forever because no museums protected it. That's a tragedy.
Right.
And that's what video games are. The big dogs, your Marios and your Sonics, they're going to survive. They're going to be preserved in some way, shape, or form. But there's a PS1 game that Bill from My Life in Gaming, Bill Barber, he's awesome. He turned me on to this PS1 game called Kodelka, which is like a RPG survival horror mix. It's this
Interesting.
really weird game that's honestly, it's not the Mona Lisa, right? But it's a cool part of video game history where they tried to blend two things in a unique way. And it's a pretty rare gem on the PS1. I am glad that you can go and you can watch 4-hour retrospectives on YouTube about that game. And that's only possible because someone can emulate it.
Right.
Right. And they can create someone and all this content out there, and the people creating the emulators and creating the texture packs and the ROM hacks. We didn't even touch on fan translations. Oh my God. How many games that were Japan only that now we can play because people went out of their way and spent thousands of hours between a team of 5 people and did all the dialogue and the voiceover and translated all the menus and all the items so that we can. Then we have to download an illegal version of the game. Then we have to patch the fan translation. But now I can play. I've drawing a blank on this PS1 game, but there's a bunch of PS1 Japan only games that I've been tinkering with when I see news come out of these fan trends. Not Tokyo Tracer, Racer Lagoon, I think it's called Racing Lagoon. That's what I've been trying to think of. Racing Lagoon is a street racing RPG on PS1. It's a JRPG, but you race cars like Tokyo Drift.
That's insane.
And it was Japan only, and it's got this awesome what's that? It's like the wave race aesthetic, like neon wave, vaporwave. It's got like this vaporwave aesthetic to it. Awesome soundtrack. Really interesting overworld map. And then like your random battles are people challenge you to races on the streets of Tokyo. And then the camera switches to like a racing game. And then after you beat the race, it goes back to like a world map and you drive your little car. It's really awesome. It's unique. That wouldn't exist for anyone that doesn't speak Japanese, and you can only emulate. It's all the things we said. It's not commercially available, and as maybe the sub tier, the lowest level of hell is you can't even play this game in your language without emulating it, right? So, it's just I think,
to be able to play it, people had to put work into it for you to be able to play it and understand it.
Yes, and so I try to credit anyone. I have a spreadsheet where I link all the resources. So if I cover a game and I got a texture pack, you can go to my link tree. There's a spreadsheet. You can find that game in there. You can find the link, and I'll always have the credit, the author, and the person who made that pack or made that hack, link to their website or their social on the video game forum or something. Because those people are going out and for free, making it so we can essentially emulation transformation. We can DIY remaster. We can play Japan only games that without their basically free labor, we wouldn't be able to do it because the companies aren't going to do it for us. They don't think enough of us want to play it. There's not enough money in it, so they're not going to make an English translation of Racing Lagoon and release it in North America as a PS classic, right? So I think I always try to give a shout out to those people. Like, you're the reason. Like, I'm glad there's a guy that makes camera hacks that I can get shots. I'm glad there's a guy that makes reshade plugins to inject RTX lighting in old games that have no business having ray trace lighting. But let's do it. Let's see what it looks like. Like, I'm so grateful because I don't actually make those things, right? I just take people's work and kind of put it together and see what's possible. I'm not the one like doing the ground level work. It's the people making the emulators and giving the emulator, like whoever figured out how to do PGXP and DuckStation and Beetle, where you can reduce the wobblies if you want to. If you like the wobblies, don't turn it on. And like, well, what does these PS1 games look like with really clean lines and consistent geometry like a PS2 game? What does that look like? Like if someone else had to do the work, a lot of free labor and a lot of smart coding, things, way smarter than you or I, for us to be able to enjoy that. And I think to just write that off as like, they're all fucking pirates, unethical pieces of shit. Like, no, these are people who love gaming more than you and I, and they have done more for gaming and preservation history than you and I will ever do. So shut the fuck up. Like, don't sit and tell me that like they're bad because they made an English fan translation for a game that you have to illegally download because it was in Japan. Oh, like, no, you should be giving these people's props. And by the way, Racing Lagoon is awesome. You should try it out. If you're talking like, just go give it a shot. Maybe it'll change your views on emulation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always like how you credit the community when you do your videos and stuff, because it's easy to just kind of dismiss that. You're just like, oh, I just download these things from the internet and I slap them on there and then I go off and be like, yeah, but you're only able to do that because of the hours of hard work by people who genuinely care about this stuff. And they care about it enough to kind of operate in this, like you said, this morally, ethically gray area for us to be able to experience these things. Like, God bless. I'm a huge fan of the Fire Emblem series. I have been since it came over to the States on the GBA. I'm thinking about doing a series on my show where I go back and I play the older ones before they came over from Japan, and that's only going to be possible because most of those games are fan translated.
Yep.
And God bless that they are, because otherwise I would be shit out of luck. And I'm really excited to experience that. And that's, like you said, that's hours and hours of hard work by people, and you're dismissing them as just, oh, they're just pirates. They're just people that steal. And believe me, late stage capitalism never side with the corporations. So the corporations don't care that you're sticking up for them in the comments. Believe me, they don't care. They are not your friends. So I see no need to be on their side. That's all I'm going to say about that. But Kate, I want to wrap this up. We've been talking for a while now. I have two final questions I kind of want to ask you.
I have one more plug, though.
Yes, plug, please. Plug away.
We're one more tier, so I guess there's 9 levels of hell.
Yes, we're adding more levels of hell as we talk.
How many are in Dante's Inferno, like the poem in the game? I forget.
I think there's 9.
Is it 9?
It's 7 or 9. Yeah, I want to say 7 or 9.
It's anointed from above. It's meant to be.
This is Unlockables Inferno at this point.
One thing we did not talk about yet is fan games, ROM hacks and fan games. So one of my favorite examples is Chrono Trigger Crimson Skies. It is a fan game that bridges the gap between Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. And dude, it is surprisingly good.
Really?
Because what they do is they hack the original game and they use all the assets from the original game, but they make a brand new game. Like original dialogue, story events, but like it's all the same enemies, but they make them like different moves and different stats. Generally the same bosses, but they move them around because they can't really, and they might make like a couple new sprites, right? Because this is like a fan game done for free, excuse me. But that's another gray area. Like they took all these copyrighted assets, right? That IP, a very famous IP, Chrono Trigger, and they made a really cool fan game. But in order for you to play that fan game, you have to have a ROM of the original game because it takes the assets from those ROM and then rebuilds a new game with new scripting and everything. And it runs on, you could, in theory, you could flash that game onto a cart and play it on an actual SNES. Right. But no one does that. I'm sure some people have done that. Repos. And then we haven't got into the repos, right? And new flash carts and like that's a whole, and all the physical hard, like that's, anyway, so the rabbit hole goes pretty deep, but I also wanted to give a shout out to anyone that's making these because some fan games like Crimson Skies, if you're a Chrono Trigger fan, it is worth playing. It's like 25 hours and it's a decent RPG and it connects the two games. And I'm just so grateful that there are fans out there that made that experience for me.
Yeah, and that extends to a lot of other games too. Like there's tons of like Kaizo Mario games out there where people just make like brutally hard fucking Mario games because there's sick people like that. Same thing with Pokemon. Like people have basically deconstructed those older games and you can make and have made like these incredible, like pretty challenging. Like there's one version of like Fire Red that's like the hardest Pokemon game ever made, and it's just brutally challenging. I don't remember exactly what it's called. Or they'll make like a dark, gritty like version of Pokemon where it's like people are fighting wars and people are dying. So it's like, yeah, people
Nice.
take
I
these
want to play
assets and
that.
yeah, there's several ones that are just like I've watched. I'm just like, oh, this is kind of fucked up, like really fucked up. Yeah, people take that stuff. One of the communities I love to shout out. There are a handful of games that I feel like I'm like the patron saint of like letting people know about them, and one of those is Advance Wars. And the Advance Wars community is small but very very passionate. So what they did is they took those games in the GBA, Advance Wars 1, 2, and then there was Dual Strike on the DS. And they've broken those games down to such a degree to the point where they made an in-browser version of the game called Advance Wars by Web, and you can play it in your browser. And usually you get to play those games. It's a turn-based strategy game, and you have to play those games, and you either play them with a link cable or hand them back and forth, and you each like take a turn. They made it in the browser so that you're able to. There's like a competitive ranking match, and you
Oh
play
my
against
God.
people. Yeah, they've combined like all the rule sets from like all the games with like all that data. You can play against people, and you don't have to be sitting at a computer chained to your desk playing somebody. You can like it's like very much like if you remember Words with Friends, you can take your turn, and then a couple minutes later, an hour later, that person can take their turn, and then you can take your turn, and then that person can take their
Ah.
turn. Yeah, and it's an incredible work of love by a community that was just like we really love playing against people, and it's not a game that you would think would lend itself to kind of like this competitive atmosphere. But there's like they have tournaments and there's like global rankings, and like people are known as like they're like grandmasters of Advanced Wars, and competitive Advanced Wars is like something that is like just fucking insane to watch and see.
I
So
need to feature
if
this. This is great content. I had no idea
yeah,
this
yeah.
existed.
Yeah, it's called Advanced Wars by Web. It's mostly online thing. And you can just you can go and learn all about it, and like all the COs are like put into tiers. Like they took this relatively simple strategy game for the GBA and turned it into like effectively like an esport. And it's insane. And it's an amazing work of love. Again, kind of more morally ethically gray area because now that the remaster came out for the Switch, it is technically commercially available once again, but they didn't do a lot of the things to the remaster that I really love the remaster because I'm just a casual player. I get my ass handed to me anytime I try to play anybody like seriously competitively. But the remaster doesn't have like a lot of the quality of life stuff that this community added to these games to play competitive or have like matchmaking or kind of balance the COs out, because there's some shit in that game that's absolutely broken if you're playing against people. So that's one. Since we just talking about it, I always like to shout it out. Advanced Wars by Web. If you have any interest in like learning that shit, it's absolutely incredible. There's a very small but dedicated group of like YouTubers that make competitive Advanced Wars content, and it's so fascinating that I'll just watch it for hours at a time. So go and check that out, as that's my one plug. But Kate, I wanted to ask you like a two-part question before we kind of left here. So you already kind of mentioned some stuff at the top, but if people wanted to kind of just start getting in and playing with some of the stuff that you do, what's the best way they can go about like learning that stuff? And my part two of that question is there anything on the horizon? Because I remember when we did the Wave Race episode for King of Games, you were talking about you were waiting for some guys to finish up some texture packs or stuff like that, and to be able to fully mod out that game. Is there anything on the horizon that you're kind of waiting for, keeping an eye on to kind of showcase in the future?
I have
So
answers for both. So number one,
two-parter.
where should people start? I think the first thing you want to emulation can be really overwhelming, and I get a lot of comments where people say that's a lot of work. That sounds fun, but that's like intimidating to get into, right? It seems like a lot of settings, and it is in the beginning, but it's worth it. And to make that process a little bit easier, I think you start with picking one system that you have an affinity for, and finding one emulator, and being like, I'm just gonna try this, because once the GUIs, the graphical user interfaces for all the emulators are going to be a little bit different, but
Mm-hmm.
the concepts of like troubleshooting an emulator, even from system to system, are going to they're going to have a lot of overlap. So if you learn one, you're halfway through the rest, right? So just pick one. Like if you love the GameCube, if you love the PS1, if you love the PS2, I'll just quickly run through like 8-bit, 16-bit stuff. I think RetroArch is your place to go. And like you mentioned with the Game Boy, there's a lot less you can do. There's a lot more limited. There's less options. You can basically pick your upscaling method and maybe some pixel filter or CRT filter, and then maybe a ROM hack or a patch for a fan translation. That's about as much as you're going to do for any 8 to 16-bit game. Once you get to the 32-bit games, your Sega Saturns, your PlayStations, your 3DOs, etc., emulation is going to start to become a little bit more complicated. And then PS2 era, like PCSX. So for PS1, I would say DuckStation, start there. For a Nintendo 64, I would say Project 64. It's a standalone, or maybe Mupen on RetroArch. For Sega Saturn, Yaba Shanshiro 2. And these are not the only ones. They're just the ones I would recommend. Just start here, depending on the game. Maybe you want to try a different one. What else is there for that era? 3DO, I can't even remember. That one's actually pretty not well. 3DO's tough. Good luck. That's advanced level emulation. Just don't even try if you're starting out. 3DO's your system. Good luck. It's going to be a rough ride. Saturn's the same way too. Saturn's very difficult. There's really only one good emulator, and my success rate on it is not super high. PS1 DuckStation is just about everything. When we get to PS2, your only option is PCSX2 or is it PSSX? I think it's PCSX2. I always get the two words flipped. That is the best and really only PS2 emulator you should bother yourself with. It plays 99% of games, are playable, it has a ton of options. If you learn that emulator, you're going to learn most of the concepts for any 3D emulation. Xbox, the original Xbox, like the OG, not Xbox One, emulation is not great, but Xbox 360, there's Xenia, and a lot of those Xbox games were backwards compatible with the 360, so you can play them on the 360 emulator. So that's where I would start there if you're looking into Xbox. PS3, RPCS3 is really the only one. Those are the ones that I mess with. The Dolphin for anything GameCube or Wii. Dolphin is the only thing you should bother with. Dolphin is the shit. It plays basically anything from GameCube and Wii. So I would pick one of those, start with a few games, wrap your mind around what it takes to emulate that game, what the options are. And then when you go to another emulator, you're going to find that a lot of those concepts are going to show up. A lot of that terminology is going to show up, but the GUI is going to be different. And then there'll be certain console specific things. So my advice would be pick something you have a strong natural affinity for that will motivate you through that learning curve, because you really want to play that old game and do some cool stuff with it. Once you get through that learning curve, I think you're more than halfway there.
Very cool. And I can vouch for, I'm a very simple technology man at heart, so a lot of the stuff goes over my head, but and I was very intimidated on stuff like once we got past kind of 16-bit emulation and stuff like that. Super Nintendo, usually that's like really plug and play. You don't have to download too much extra stuff. But yeah, once I got into like DuckStation and PCSX2, and you have to kind of find the PS2 BIOS and all that kind of stuff, it gets a little bit more complicated, and that kind of kept me away from it for a long time. But just the nature of like hosting King of Games and having to play older stuff, I've gotten a lot more into it. And it feels really good just to kind of get that stuff working, and that kind of builds your confidence from there to the point where now I'm like, oh, like I got this working. I could figure some of this stuff out. So don't be discouraged. And one thing I found too is picking a game that like you're comfortable and familiar with, and a game that you want to see what you can do with it. One of your favorites, and see what you can do with it. So I'm currently playing around with, like you said, DuckStation, PCSX2, and I found a really good Dreamcast one called Redream. That's pretty interesting that I've been playing with that one. So
I should do that. So Redream is awesome. There's another one called Flycast that supports textures. So
oh, nice. Okay.
I started with Redream. Redream is very it's an amazing polished product. I think I paid $6 for the premium one-time fee, $6 to get 4K on it.
Oh, that's worth it.
They deserve it. Yeah. And Redream is pretty much plug and play. And like speaking of Sonic Adventure, Redream has they will build in a lot of custom sheets. So when I booted up Sonic Adventure, they have a built-in 60 FPS hack. So if you want to play that, it breaks some some collision detection in the game, but like 90% of the game is great, and you can play it at 60 FPS. You don't have to do anything special. You just check a box in Redream. Flycast, if you want to add textures, it has that. The next question though was what's coming up. There's a few that I'm like really, really excited about. And I could probably go on forever, but I'm going to probably stick to 3. I think I'm going to stick with 3. Number 1 is 2-in-1. One of the most requested videos I get is Legend of the Dragoon, or Legend of Dragoon. I think it's The Legend of Dragoon. I think it's technically right. I've been saying it wrong. I call it Legend of the the Dragoon, but it's the whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's the PS1 Sony RPG that was like the Final Fantasy competitor. Awesome CG cutscenes. Initially, there was a project called Legend of Dragoon, the Legend of Dragoon Upscale Project, where they were taking the original pre-rendered backgrounds and they were running them through AI. But like old games at that low resolution, AI upscales don't look good. So they start with AI upscales and they do a lot of manual work on top of the AI upscale to like make it look good. And because old PS1 games, it wasn't one static image. It was all they couldn't have one image that big. So they would break the game up into tiles and they would plan the image so there wasn't any seams. It looks like one big image. But the PlayStation is actually like if you're playing Final Fantasy VII or Legend of Dragoon, that background is maybe like 32 or 64 tiles. Then they have to manually go through and do the collision detection and the masking on each tile. So
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
upscale the game, it's not like, oh, let me just download this background, upscale it, and then reload it. No, that background is like 32 different backgrounds that you have to stitch back together. It's a massive project that these texture packs take. So it's been in development. I think they're through disc 1, 2, and 3, and they're on disc 4. But during that, so while I've been waiting for that, people ask for that game. I'm like, I can't. I'm not going to do a video on that game because there's some shit coming down the pipe that's going to be able to make me allow me to create the emulation transformation I desire. Then, while they were making that Legend of Dragoon upscale project, another group of people started Legend of Dragoon Severed Chains, and that is a PC decomp. And I've had some semantic arguments about what constitutes a decomp and not. So do not take my definition as canon, but this is how I define a decomp for those who don't know what it is. A decomp is a little bit different than an emulation. An emulator plays all sorts of games. It tricks your computer into thinking it's a PlayStation, so you can put PlayStation ROMs, ISOs, and play it. A decomp is like a game specific emulator. It's a PC, essentially an unofficial PC port of the game. But legally, you can't make one of those and use the assets from the game. So in order to play a decomp, you, the users, have to provide the decomp program a ROM. So they had that for Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. It's an unofficial PC port, but the way they don't get taken down by Nintendo, that PC port doesn't actually contain any files from the game. It's just the code to run the game on the PC.
Oh,
You have to
wow.
provide the program, the assets. And the way you provide it is you say, here's a ROM of Ocarina of Time Master Collection version. And then it extracts all the assets and then compiles the program, and then now you're playing. So it's this weird middle ground. That's a decomp project. I think it's short for not decommissioned, but decompiled. They
Oh,
decompiled the
yeah,
original
yeah.
code, made like new code, and that's essentially gives you a PC port of the game. And when you have a PC port versus an emulation, once you have a PC port, the doors blow wide open for mods, right? You can play Ocarina of Time as Sonic or Robotnik if you want right now, right? Someone modded that in. You can do whatever you want. It blows the doors open. Well, Severed Chains is a decomp project for Legend of Dragoon, and they're like 80% done. So close. Now the teams are working together. I think it's called Legend of Dragoon HD Upscale. Just Google it, you'll find it. They have like a blog and they're going to release it all together. So they're going to finish the upscale project and Severed Chains, which is going to have like support OpenGL and Vulkan and unlocked frame rates. They're just going to blow the doors wide open for mods. So I'm hoping that comes out this year, maybe next year. I would probably be doing like solely Legend of Dragoon content for a while when that happens. I'm going to do video. I'm going to play through. I'm going to get all the bosses. I'm going to do YouTube videos on it. So that's a big one that I'm excited for. The second one that I'm really excited for is Castlevania Symphony of the Night Hacked. It's by a YouTuber who goes by Esco, ESCO, and he's been working on a remaster remake with extra animations, more weapons. He's hired like actual pixel animators to come in and make more frames for everything, give Alucard more moves, extra bosses, weapon particle effects, like new combat mechanics. There's like a mechanic where you can dash behind someone, grab them, and suck their blood out. Like he's like adding so much to the game. He's been working on it, I want to say, for 7 or 8 years, still cranking at it.
That's
Puts out a
amazing.
video every month. He's going so deep. I have no idea when he'll finish it, but no one's, even though Symphony of the Night is legendary, no one seems interested other than just kind of like re-releasing it as is, and now it's on the PS4 store or whatever. All right, it's just another version of Symphony of the Night. Nothing new. I'm grateful that people can play it, but there's been no like proper remaster or sequel talks. There probably won't be. So he's our only hope, essentially. And then I got so excited about those two. There was a third one that this one's for you because I know you love Kingdom Hearts.
Oh
Look
yeah.
up Project Nobody May Cry.
Okay.
They overhauled Kingdom Hearts combat with Devil May Cry combat, essentially.
Oh
But
shit. So is that for Kingdom Hearts 1?
I think it's like for 1 and 2 and like all the 2.5
Interesting.
Dream Drop shit in between. Like I don't even know. There's too many. But I think
And
it's
that's
for
called what? And that's called what again?
Project Nobody May Cry.
Nobody May Cry. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Very thematically appropriate.
Yeah. And I'm part of the Discord server and I've been watching updates. He has demos out. Like they're still actively working on it. Watch a couple of YouTube videos of that. Um Now I don't know how that's gonna work now that the PC remasters are on Steam, which is kind of where everyone is at. And the mod I'm assuming I think they were like emulation hacks, right? You'd have to get the ISO of the original game and patch
Right.
them, I believe. I can't remember. Could be wrong on that. Maybe they're going to get ported over to the Steam, but I actually just bought all the Kingdom Hearts on Steam and I've been basically refreshing Nexus mods to kind of see. There's already a nice, a robust modding scene, but they only worked for the Epic Game Store version.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah.
I'm waiting for there's a lot of mods out there I want to run with, but I'm waiting for the Steam version to come around. And I'll definitely be seeing what I can do to Kingdom Hearts, and I'll have to hit you up for that because I know a big Kingdom Hearts guy.
Yeah, I'm always curious to see what people can do with that. And yeah, when they were coming to Steam, I was really excited because I'm like, oh, the mod community will just probably absolutely go nuts with this.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, good call on picking those up because you could get basically the entire series for like $70.
I got all of
I think
them.
it was something
Yeah.
like that.
And I never
Yeah,
played any of the like handheld ones because I've never really been into handhelds. But now I'm like, you know what? I know guys like you love Kingdom. I loved 1 and 2 and just stopped
Yeah.
after that. I did buy
The
3.
a
Like
couple of the
Bayo.
handheld ones are just the cutscenes, but a couple of the other ones, it's pretty good. And to be able to play those on PC is kind of mind blowing when you think about it. So yeah, if you ever do any stuff like that, definitely hit me up. I'd love to
We should
check
do a
that out
Kingdom
for
Hearts
sure.
episode, like when I play through all of them, like come through and walk because I probably won't understand it. Like, you can come in and walk me through. Like, okay, play through the whole series. Let's talk about it. What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? I'm confused here. I'm confused there.
If you want to, I will because there's some stuff where I don't even it doesn't even make sense to me. I just go, you know what? I trust Nomura, so it is what it is. I'm along for the ride. So, but Kate, we've been up late enough, but I really, really appreciate you giving me your time tonight, man. It was awesome to finally talk to you. Like I said, we've collaborated before, mostly on King of Games. So, I knew when I was coming back that I wanted to have you on and talk about a lot of the stuff that you do because it's just not something that's in my wheelhouse and it's just something that I think is so fascinating. So before we go, I want to give you a chance to like show all your stuff. Where can the people find you on the internet and what do you have to share?
The best place is linktr.ee. It's such a weird URL how they do that. Linktree
Right.
/ gaming memories pod. Just Google gaming memories pod Linktree. That's the fast way. It has all the links, whatever social media platform you prefer. I will say my YouTube is a current work in progress.
Yep.
Most of my best content has been short form. So if probably Instagram or TikTok is the best place to check it out. The podcast and all the regular podcast platforms. I have people on like Eric, which will probably have them on soon, talk about their favorite games growing up. And on YouTube, I have more long form content. The shots I was talking about at the beginning of the episode where I get the environmental shots. That's where I'm posting those videos where I'll make like a custom song and I'll edit all the shots together. I just recently did uh Hellblade Sensuous Saga or Hellblade 2 Sensuous Saga. Game
Yeah.
is decent. Probably the best graphics I've ever seen for an environment, hands down. And I did cool stuff like I maxed out the lumen ray traced lighting. I added extra lighting, added extra ambient inclusion, time of day control. So because that's more of a modern game, it's a PC, like a lot more options to really push it as far as my graphics card can handle. And I have a 4090. So if you want to see what the tip of the spear can do for that game, then YouTube's your spot. Check it out.
Sure. Go and check all that stuff out. It'll be linked in the description of the episode. And seriously, to go and check out that short form content, go and check out everything he's doing because some of those videos are absolutely incredible. Some of the stuff that you just, if you've, odds are, if you have a game you're interested in, Kade may have covered it because he's done a lot of stuff so far. And if you have money to give him, maybe he'll cover a game that you wanted to see too. But it's truly incredible to see what the technology of our time is capable of doing to the games that we love. Just please, please, please don't tell him that he ruined your favorite game or
No,
that it didn't look like that. So, yeah, just please don't do that. And be sure to check out Gaming Memories podcast as well. It's one of the podcasts that I'm subscribed to, and Kade has some absolutely incredible conversations with people. He's a far better interviewer than I am, and he has some incredible conversations with people from all walks of life. And really, that's what this is all about. So be sure to check out all those things. Links are in the description of the episode for all that stuff. And Kade, thank you once again, man. I really appreciate you giving me your time tonight. It was awesome to finally sit down and talk to you. Oh, if you're interested in hearing more of me and Kade, we have a couple of episodes from King of Games 1996 that we were on. We did Suikoden versus Tekken. That was the episode that we did Tekken 2. And we were on Wave Race 64 versus Crash Bandicoot. We were on that episode. So those are some great episodes.
And Eric and I's friendship hangs by the thread because we are going to be on an episode in the near future. I have no idea when it's going to come out.
Yeah, be sure to check out that episode when it comes out. But for not Game Games 96, all those episodes should be out by the time this episode comes out.
This comes out.
Yeah. I will say myself, not to like brag, but that Suikoden Tekken 2 episode is probably one of my favorite episodes of the entire tournament. Not really anything to do with me. You and Chris completely carried that episode. So that was really kind of my first experience with hosting. And Chris was just like, "Yeah, we're gonna do Suikoden and Tekken 2." And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be fun." So here's hoping that our sequel, we're running it back for King Games 99. Here's hoping that our sequel is just as exciting and maybe even more violent. But you'll have to tune into Retro Hangover to hear that. Yep. But as for me, as for Kade, as for the Unlockables, we're going to wrap it up tonight. And I'll just leave you guys with my customary closing words. It's not just the story of video games. It's the story of you. Everybody have a good day.